Well, when last we saw our friends, they had no fucking clue who they were. So the first order of business, in a world where you just turn magic back on and then a giant bureaucratic institution like the library just swooped in and took control of it, and meanwhile a monster of untold power is walking around in your best friend's body, that's a bad time to forget who you are and think you're just an English professor who has some papers to grade. So we start the season kind of having fun with their witness protection identities, as we call them.
Can you tease how long that's going to last at all?
Not a minute longer than it has to, but at least that long. No, we can't say that exactly. What we like to say is this: like Dean Fogg composed that spell. He's a really good magician. He wouldn't compose a spell that was easy to undo. So I will say that if you're Alice and you're locked up in the library concerned about them, you're also concerned that the spell is going to really stick. They're not going to be able to break it too easily. So that's where we start the season.
Do you think that, though, it's going to be hard with Elliot, especially having, like, such a big part of the show is Elliot and Margot and their great personalities. Like, with those episodes, what's it going to be like when Hale is a monster and Margot doesn't know who she is?
Suspenseful? Funny?
It is funny. It's also like, I mean, without spoiling too much, Janet, the human formerly known as Margot, and the monster in the body of Elliot do end up in the same room pretty quickly. And there's a layer to it as a viewer where you're watching it, and it's like I want them to be Margot and Elliot so badly, and they're not. So that's it's like the good kind of torture, in my opinion, for the viewer, because we know what we want and we're not getting it yet, so we hope we'll get it eventually.
So you mentioned Kenny a little bit. Have we seen the last of our Kenny? Is that it for him? Was that his goodbye last season?
No.
He's pretty fucking dead, though.
Yeah, but that's not the last of him.
Nope. Not the last of him.
So the library has kind of always been there in the story. Sort of, we never really knew their role and everything up until now, where they kind of stepped into the forefront. Was there a kind of, was it from the onset that you kind of knew the direction the library was going for, what their ultimate goal was, or did it kind of naturally form as you were writing the seasons out?
I feel like I don't remember exactly when we started, but I think an interesting thing about writing this show is that America has changed a lot in the time that we've written the show. Like when we first wrote Ember, Trump wasn't even a candidate. And then we were headed towards this reveal that we had this all-powerful god in Fillory who was literally doing everything like it was a reality show, and he would just pick the most entertaining thing, and if it wasn't entertaining enough, he would start killing people. And I think we're just people in the world. We can't really ignore what's going on all around us. And so in writing the story, this institution of the library that has kind of been behind the scenes, but they know more than anyone else. They can track anyone. They could surveil you if they wanted to. It's like there, but for the grace of their morals and ethics, go all of us. And then hand them the responsibility for all the magic in the universe. It's like, for some dumb reason, we all just wanted to talk about fascism. Like, it's just kind of in the air. What is authoritarianism? So, I mean, our show is always going to be entertaining, and there might be a musical number or a magical creature or both. But we also are using it, I think, as a vehicle to talk about this stuff at the same time.
The show, since it's aired, and before anyone ever saw an episode, the show was always dealing with issues like depression and dependency and discrimination, all those heavy social issues, and it's always done it well. I think a lot of fans identify with that show and look to it now as almost like therapy in the cast, and then the way. Do you guys now, when you're breaking stories, do you feel like an extra weight of responsibility to handle those? Now that you know fans are so in tune with and looking at the show before that, has that influenced you at all?
I don't. No, and I don't say that lightly. But I always remind myself of something wonderful that Jeremy Irons said something amazing when he was cast as Humbert in the remake of Lolita, which is kind of a hot button part.
Sure.
You know. I believe his exact quote was, "To portray something is not to condone it."
Yeah.
And I think you have to remember you're portraying something. Right. You want to be honest, You want to do your research. You want to try and either access parts of yourself that have been through that or talk to people who've been through that. If you're dealing with something like rape, you have to have a rape hotline at the end, which we did, because you don't know what's going to trigger someone. But at the end of the day, you're writing Macbeth or Saving Private Ryan or Star Wars. You know, you're writing something to entertain and hopefully engage. And the minute you cross into, I'm going to tell you how to have a better life, go start a religion. You know, because you're not doing drama.
I guess the follow-up would that be, has sci-fi ever come in, if you can say, has sci-fi ever come in and be like, no.
Not once. Never.
They were interested in the sexual assault scene.
Yeah.
Like, that was the scene that we talked
sure.
to the executives at Sci-Fi about. They were hands-on just in that they wanted to know more about how it was going to be shot and how it was going to be edited. And to their credit, they watched an early cut and they pointed out the one shot that had remained in that wasn't very strongly in the point of view of Julia. And I mean, we were really glad that they had pointed it out. It made the scene a lot cleaner and it made the point of view stronger. But they were our partners in that. They wanted us to do it. They just wanted to, help us do it properly, really.
Networks like Sci-Fi, and particularly shows like The Magicians, have become much more of a forefront for feminism. You have female leads who aren't shrinking violets, and they have, they're not put in their place, they're fierce and flawed at the same time. What about this balance is important for females to see represented, and how has that impacted the way that the show has been going?
I feel like I should. We just had the same joke. That was so funny. I really feel like I should answer.
John.
Obviously.
He gets annoyed when I point out how big a feminist he is.
I am not a feminist. I will happily veer
You're
into...
sometimes a bad feminist, but you're a feminist.
No one who's read as much Ian Fleming as I have is a feminist. You should take this.
I mean, my answer to that is sort of similar to the question about how you deal with mental health stuff. Like, the thing that's most important to me is just to portray these characters honestly. So I think we were halfway there when we were given these characters from Lev's books, and then we invented a few more, like Katie and Fen, along the way. It seems to me like it should be a no-brainer, and the reason we're having this conversation is because it's not always. But certainly for all the writers that we work with and for ourselves, once you have a character, it's your job to portray him or her honestly and three-dimensionally, and not to ever just use them to tell the other character's story. Certainly we have storylines that are more in one character's POV or another character's POV, but ultimately the trick isn't even really about a balance between strong and weak or flawed and fierce or anything like that. It's just, who is Alice? What is her story? What is true about Alice? And we have a really nice mix of men and women writing the show, and it's a mix of our experiences and our observations, and I think we kind of go from there.
Do you have women directors?
Yeah, actually, I think every new director to come join the show in the last 2 seasons has been a woman. Am I right about that? Yeah. Our producing director, Chris Fisher, is very active in finding up-and-coming diverse directors, female directors, and mentoring them, giving them opportunities to shadow. Yeah, because in my opinion, just watching things, I feel like the industry is changing and has made it a bit more of a priority to open up directing in particular, because it was a very, very closed job. It was probably the most honest about its sexism, and there were really, I would go years and never work with a female director as I was kind of coming up through the writer's room. And now that the powers that be have been made aware of this problem in a way that has kind of forced their hand a little bit, right? Now that there's this mandate, I think it's now up to the creators of shows. It's up to producing directors and showrunners and people involved in it to foster a new generation of talent so that the pool gets bigger and bigger. So that's where we are now with it, I think. Yeah.
So what magic spell would you like to be able to cast?
I would like for the script to write itself. Just script elves in the middle of the night, like shoe elves, but for scripts.
How's the technical aspect? Because I know early on you did a lot of practical effects, and last year clearly not all practical. How's the next season shaping up?
Well, I think the first season was a lot of, hopefully not obvious, but a lot of trial and error. So it wasn't so much that it was more practical and less, say, CGI. It was just more, this didn't work, let's try this. let's reshoot this, you know. By season 2, we kind of had a balance. I think by season 3, we sort of had a team in place that would always know the best way to attack a certain scene. So.